we go.
Okay guys, good to see you. Sam from Sauceline Slayer. So today we're going to do some beef ribs. These aren't going on the smoker today, they're going on there tomorrow, but we're going to put a spice rub on them, a spice blend on them at the moment. And we're using 2 of our brand new spice blends. Now, we haven't released them yet. They're still being tested. The first time we're testing them on these beef ribs, we're going to do one on the Masterbuilt Gravity charcoal smoker and grill. We're not going to use any wood. We're just going to use straight heat and charcoal on one. And then the other one we're actually going to use apple wood in our pellet smoker, the Pit Boss, just to get an idea of how these work. So I'm going to have to cover up the name. This one here is one of our blends, and this one here is our other blend. Now they're all a little bit different with our blends at Sauceline Slayer. We kind of step outside the box a little bit. It's not your average kind of spice blend, and we're trying to get people to think about the food than rather just taste similar flavors, similar profiles. We're actually getting people to kind of be surprised by what they're tasting and maybe help them think about how they can improve what they eat and how they eat and how they enjoy food. So these will be a surprise. Like all of our rubs, they're not standard. There's a little bit about them that kind of steps you outside the box, but that gets you enjoying cooking. So we'll use our first one on our beef ribs. We did a few blends already. What we'll do is we'll just get a binder on that.
2 people.
So we'll just get a binder, just some olive oil, nothing too fancy on this one. We'll get a binder on this one. These are our grass-fed beef ribs. Now we're not going to trim these down at all. I'm going to let the fat work with the rub. I just need to make sure that we're also going to grill one of these as well, because what we do when we test our rubs out before we release them is we check that they work with everything. So do they work raw as a raw spice? Do they work as a raw spice? Do they work when they're over high heat? Do they work low and slow? Do they work when after they're cooked? How do they interact with the fat and the meat? Because they'll change flavour through all of this cooking. So our first test is really to put it on something that's going to be low and slow, and also put it on something that's got a high fat content, which is our beef ribs, and we'll see how we go. So you've got some lightly ground spices in here. They're all freshly ground. They're all freshly packed. No fillers. They're all natural herbs and spices. So first of all, we'll just go in here with our first blend. Now we're happy with the colour. We may over time actually change the grind. We grind at different stages. We'll grind for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and it really does change the flavour of our blend. You'll be surprised how, and that's why we call them spice blends and not spice rubs, because it is how the spices interact with each other, and that's why we call them blends. Okay, so that's our first one. Let's not waste any of that spice. So that's our first one, guys. That's our first rub. We already have the name for these rubs, but we won't obviously tell you, won't give too much away. That's our first one. All right.
Oh, we've got a question.
Right, what's the question, mate?
So, running them down early helps get the flavour in the meat better, does it?
You mean spice rubbing them early, putting them on before you cook, letting them marinate? Is that what you mean, like overnight or for a couple of hours?
Wait for him to respond. But yeah, so what he said was, so running them down early helps get the flavour in the meat better? Question mark.
Right. So yes, dependent on the salt level of a spice blend, will depend on how long you marinate for. Now, big cuts of meat like a brisket, your pulled pork, not so much your ribs, because remember they're thinner amount of meat. Your beef ribs, as long as they're thick enough, like these ones, can handle that salt content for a period of time. So yes, bigger cuts, beef ribs, absolutely. What happens is your flavours will mellow, they'll marry together. When the moisture and the meat actually interact with the spices, they'll go from that kind of raw flavour to starting to mellow out. So yes, absolutely. Marinate overnight, marinate for at least a couple of hours. I'm a great believer in not just spice rub, putting it straight in and off you go, because what will happen as well is the heat will actually either burn some of those spices, or funny enough, they'll actually evaporate before they get into the meat.
So he actually meant, so it auto-corrected, so rubbing them down early helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I always agree in that, but you just have to remember, if it's a smaller cut of meat like a chicken breast, if you were to put a spice blend on a chicken breast, you'd probably over salt it because you'd be leaving it too long. So chicken breast, 20 minutes, half an hour max.
Another question. Are these great on chicken and fish as well?
Absolutely. So this blend, particularly, I won't tell you which one it is, but this one coming soon. This one is absolutely brilliant on fish. We designed some of these blends to do certain things, and we're not quite going to tell you right now what they are, but absolutely, they're great on fish. The reason they're great on fish is because they've got naturally ground and blended spices, so there's lots of really good essential oils in these blends, which means that oil is going to release through the skin. It's going to interact with the flavour of the fish, and yeah, absolutely, 100% on your fish. And yeah, you can buy it. So this is our other blend, and as you'll see, it's a completely different colour to our other one. It's slightly darker, it's not as light, but again, we're still looking for some of those really beautiful flavours. Now we've got some powder in here, we've also got some freshly ground spices, we've also got some whole spices, not touched, just put in here. And the reason we do that is different spices at different stages react differently at different cooks. So what do we mean by that? Well, a powder will tend to break down and blend in with the meat almost instantly. That happens straight away, and you'll lose some of that over your cook. It runs off as the fat runs off. What will happen with a whole spice is it will actually withstand that heat, and it will release its oils over time. So what you're doing there is you're flavouring your meat over a period of the whole cook. Now these spices, in fact, will actually still be on here when we finish cooking. They'll still be releasing their essential oils, and when we go to bite into our meat, what we're going to find is we're going to find that we're actually going to taste some of those spices, and that's going to give us more intensity, more flavour. We're not going to lose it. We've got another question.
Okay. Do you have really spicy ones, or are they mainly just flavour forward?
Good question. These ones are much spicier. So, in fact, this one here is going to be a spicy one. Not blow your socks off hot, but it's going to have a kick. With all of our blends, what we're looking at is balancing those flavours out. So we want that initial heat to come through, but then we want the other flavours to come and balance them. So yes, this one here is spicier. This one here does have chili in it, but not as much. So yes, we do. We are looking at doing something which is a little bit different, where you can actually control the level of spice you want in your blends, and we'll let you know a little bit more about that. You can actually personalise your blend to make it hotter. We're going to talk a little bit more about that down the track. That's an idea we're playing around with. But yes, you're going to be able to personalise any of our blends and make them hotter if you want, but we'll talk about that a bit later. So what we're going to do now, real simple, is we're just going to put these in a pan just like that. We're going to cover them with foil, and we're just going to leave them to marinate overnight. Now these won't go on, sorry, a bit noisy, I'll finish this first. Alright, so we'll just put them in the fridge. And we'll leave them to do its thing. So we'll leave them till probably tomorrow lunchtime. We'll put them on at lunchtime. They'll sit there for a good 5 or 6 hours. Like I said, one's going to be on charcoal, finished, high heat. So we can see how the spices interact with high heat. So if you want to put them on things like steak or a pork chop or a chicken breast, we're going to make sure that they work with those as well. And the other one's going to be literally finished as a low and slow. So we're just going to take that off, and we're going to slice. So, what does that mean? Well, we want to make sure that you can put this on things like chips, making fries. We want you to put it in a salad dressing. We want you to put it when you finish cooking over like a lamb joint, or even finish it over some fish. We want you to cook some sausages up and sprinkle some over it. So we need to make sure these spices are tasty and they're good, and they do their job even as a raw spice, because we don't just want you to cook barbecue, we want you to use these in your everyday cooking. So it's weekday and you're making a lasagna. Can you use them in lasagna? Absolutely you can. Add some additional flavour in as you're cooking down your meat. You know what, we've got people that do meal prep, and they're doing meat and veg, and they'll use it in their meal prep. So the point is they need to be versatile and need to be able to use them all the time. The reason why we say they're different and they step outside the box is it's not your usual spice blend, not what you're expecting. And that's what we're hoping to surprise you a little bit and get you thinking more about food and even experiencing flavours that you never have before. Any other questions, Quinn?
No, but Pepperford said that it's a very smart idea and he likes the multiple uses.
Yeah, good. Well, we try and make sure that people can use them for whatever they want, and we try not to just create a blend for one thing and one use. Obviously, these blends will work better specifically with certain things, and we do design them to work specifically with some foods. That's how we get our ideas, but they'll work with anything. One of the things I will give away is one of these blends actually pays homage to all of our cultures around the world. What I wanted to do was kind of celebrate different cultures from around the world and everything they've offered us when it comes to flavour and food, and put it into one blend. So that is a little bit of a giveaway. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this little 5-10 minute, whatever it is, live video, and I hope you're looking forward to our spice blends. I can't tell you when they're coming out yet because we're still testing them, but we're hoping really soon. If you haven't tried our other 3 spice blends, the Gentleman Blend, the Weekend Blend, and the Spilt Gin Blend, please go on sourcelowandSlow.com and use the code GRILL to get 10% off. Guys, you won't regret it. There's also a blenders pack on there where you can buy all of them for $30, free postage. And we keep our postage really, really low because we all hate paying postage. So guys, have a great Saturday. Oh, we got a question?
It's not a question, but I think it's the Scoville Slayer said, generally you need to add more spice to things if you want to maintain the heat and flavour during cooking.
Yeah, absolutely, that's right. That's 100%, that balance between being able to try a raw spice and it not be overpowering on the palate, to being able to maintain that flavour all the way through the cook. That comes down to how you blend your spices and how you balance blended spices with raw spices. So that means a whole spice compared to a powder. So having blended those well and well enough, and that's why we do a lot of testing with all of our blends, absolutely, we'll make sure that you get that all the way through.
Now there's a question. Will you ship to the US?
Look, absolutely. On our website, you just have to DM me or send me an email. I'll work out postage for you. As we grow, we're probably going to start including postage to the UK, to the US. Definitely, we want to expand, we want to grow, we want you guys over the other side of the ocean to enjoy what we're doing here in Australia. So yeah, send me a DM, give me your address, and I'll absolutely let you know what postage is. And postage will get cheaper and cheaper the more we grow. So yeah, thanks very much. Appreciate that. All right, guys, so we're going to head off now because I've got a family and 3 kids that need taken out and keep them busy. Any further questions, guys, please comment. Send me a DM if you're interested in anything or want to know anything more. We're going to do some more of these as we slowly we test them, we find out what's right, what's wrong with them, and then eventually we'll release them. So I look forward to having you on the journey with us, and we'll see you soon. See you guys.